I have a lot of Dutch and American friends because I can relate to both. As a Russian person, I can relate to some of the American behaviors. For example, American capitalism to Russians is much more understandable than Dutch socialism in moderation. At the same time, Russians are like the Dutch, are very direct. I guess it's coming from the Soviet Union culture where everybody was the same, so the cultural and behavioral standards were the same as well. If I think that this is wrong, it's probably wrong countrywide, so I can be direct about it. 1984 in a way. To me, Dutch and Americans are mostly different, but I still notice some similarities. I will start with listing the most obvious ones and will finish with the ones that are not so widely talked about. Number 1. Dutch directness versus American politeness. This is very noticeable at workplace. Americans don't speak their minds. It feels like they're almost afraid to say what they really think. The Dutch have no issue with that. In the US, the decisions are made in an authoritarian way, no questions asked. In the Netherlands, it takes longer to arrive at the decision because people like to discuss, include everyone, and share ideas. I can definitely attest that collaboration is one of the most important values for most Dutch people. The Dutch give you feedback freely because they believe that it helps you grow and develop. The Americans hold off and then surprise you with their decision of not extending your contract or firing you, for example. From the Dutch perspective, it feels like, why do you make it so difficult? Just tell me what you think so I can work on it and improve. But no, it's not how they do it in the States. I personally don't resonate with the American approach because I value honesty and fairness above all. And to me, this is not fair if you don't tell me what you think and how you think I'm performing, if we take workplace as an example, and then surprise me with your decision. Like, how is it fair? You just catch another person off guard without giving them any chance to take your feedback and improve. In personal life, the pattern persists as well. Americans tend to phrase things in a vague and indirect way. For example, if you invited an American to a party and they don't want to come, they will likely say something, "I will see if I can stop by." While a Dutch person will directly tell you, "Sorry, I'm not available now." If you are a direct person by nature like me, you will likely take "I will see if I can stop by" literally as "I will see if I can stop by." So you will wait for this person to turn up or even send them another message, while what this American friend really meant is, "I'm not interested." Number 2, work-life balance versus prioritizing work. To me, the Dutch have a healthier concept of work-life balance. For Americans, working extra hours is an exemplary behavior. So if I am in the US and I stay late at work, people will likely encourage me by saying, "Tanya, you're doing such an amazing job, well done." The Dutch will think that I am not managing my job well. For the Dutch, working extra hours is inefficient. If I keep staying late, at some point my boss will probably ask me if the workload is manageable or if I need help. I know some Americans who moved to the Netherlands exactly because of that. They wanted a healthier work-life balance. Some who came here and started working for Dutch companies throw parties on a Tuesday because they can. They feel the sense of security of their job, they have a permanent contract, and they feel like they don't have to prove anything to anyone. Other Americans I know are still very dedicated to their work. You can often hear them say that their work is their hobby. They work extra hours, they carry over their work to evenings or weekends or even bank holidays. For some, from what I could gather, it feels like it's their coping mechanism or habit. They did not have much hobbies back in the States, and now when they moved to the Netherlands, it's the same. They did not develop many hobbies. So their work, as I said, has become their hobby and they spend all their time working. I used to work for an American startup and oh my god, the culture is just so different in comparison to the Dutch company I now work for. At the American startup, they would expect you to work extra hours, and if you don't, you're looked down upon. Like, what? You're not that excited about your job? I guess every employer wants you to be so thrilled about your job that you can work at no cost for them. But in the Netherlands, while I still think that this can be the case, it's not in the culture to explicitly expect this from you. Number 3, American size versus Dutch size. Hold on, I'm referring to the size of home, car, TV, and other materialistic possessions. In the US, people like everything to be big. If it's a house, it has to be gigantic. If it's TV, the biggest TV possible. If I have a big car, I am probably already dreaming of having even a bigger car. Some American living in the Netherlands once shared with me that the portions of food here are fairly small. The Dutch would frame it's just enough. After a meal in a Dutch restaurant, an average person would be 80% full. I would be maybe 100% full, and then my boyfriend would be 75-80% full. So I get it, it's personal and it varies from person to person, but it's enough. In the US, though, you will probably be 100% full and will want to take the rest in a box home. I suspect that it has to do with capitalism and the mentality of if it's bigger, it has to be better, or even showing off, like I have a bigger, better car, so I make more money than you do. The Netherlands is on the completely opposite of the spectrum. The mentality goes like this: my home is spacious enough, I don't need a bigger one, which makes sense in a way. The land in the Netherlands is expensive and scarce, so an average person here would not be able to afford a big house. Big houses are not even being built as much because the government knows that the land is scarce and there is a lot of people they need to house, so they have to be smart with the space. Number 1. Nationalism. The Netherlands has the same nationalism as Americans. The Dutch are very proud of their country and take every opportunity to celebrate the Netherlands. You see them being dressed in orange, the national color, and hanging the flags, the Dutch flags, out of the window, sometimes without any particular reason. If it's the King's Day, Carnival, Gay Parade, or any other big celebration, brace yourself, because for sure you will see a lot of people in orange and a lot of people with the Dutch flag. The US too, they made sure that the whole world knows about the 4th of July and what their flag is. I saw a lot of Americans wear t-shirts with the American flag, and like the Dutch, a lot of them own a flag. I mean, they have it physically at home and show it proudly with and without a reason. To compare, because I guess if you're American or Dutch watching this, you're like, okay Tanya, what's the catch? Why are you even talking about it? Aren't other countries doing the same? Well, no. In Russia, we have some bank holidays dedicated to Russia, like the Day of Russia or the Russia's Day of Unity. But no one truly celebrates it. Don't love, but according to my feeling, and this is only my feeling, I haven't fact-checked it, but maybe around 40-50% of the Russian population doesn't truly know what the day really represents. So they're like, okay, we don't have to go to the office, we don't have to work, so we're happy, we don't care about the rest. No one goes with the Russian flag and sings the Russian anthem. I don't know any Russian family that owns the Russian flag. That would be so weird and would raise lots of questions of neighbors if a Russian family has the Russian flag in their garden or hanging out of the window. I would not be surprised that if in Russia you put the Russian flag out of the window, you would be laughed upon, or people would like to know why you're doing this. In the Netherlands or in the US, it's normal. Number 2. Individualism. According to Hofstede Dimensions, the US ranks 91 on the individualism scale and the Netherlands 80, which is evidently high for both countries. What this means is that in both countries people identify with I rather than we, and they rely mostly on themselves. For example, I was in Bali for a couple of months and I noticed how important the group power is there, so to say, to survive. If I have more rice and you have more milk, let's exchange. Or I will help you today, you will help me tomorrow. Logically, in the Netherlands or the US, there is no need for it. People can count on themselves and they can get by just on their own. Both countries are very individualistic, but let's acknowledge, in a little bit of a different way. The Dutch are very self-sufficient. They don't want to ask for help unless it's absolutely necessary. For example, they go to the supermarket and they're not going to bother the shop assistant because why? I can do it on my own. And like, why to bug another person if see above, I can do it on my own. In the US, yes, it's an individualistic society where people count and rely on themselves, but if you need help and if you can afford it, why not? I'll tell you a story. A few years ago, I was running my own business, I was selling journals, and I still had my 9-to-5 job. That was exhausting. So I was part of one of the online communities driven by Americans because my business was in the US, and someone suggested, Tanya, why don't you hire an assistant, because clearly you need help. And I was quite run down at that point, so I thought, why not? So I got one. Needless to say, it was quite an antisocial period of my life because I simply did not have the time to socialize. Well, I had the time, but I had different priorities. Anyways, someone invited me to their birthday. I went and I dropped in the conversation that I have an assistant. I kid you not. The Dutch got offended by this. Some of them, they judged me and they stood up and left the discussion because they, got offended that someone at 24 needs an assistant. Number 3, fast food culture. Americans are known for McDonald's and eating fast food, but the Dutch? Are you surprised by this statement? Let me explain. Although I acknowledge that it's slightly different, if an American wants something quick, they go to McDonald's drive-thru. If a Dutchie wants something quick, they go to Albert Heijn to go. But what's the motivation for both? It's the same. They want to eat quick and continue working. When I shared that in Russia we usually have a 2-course lunch, it's usually a soup with some meat and side dish, the Dutch were like, when do you guys work? Yes, we have a 1-hour lunch break and we take the time to eat, but we also work 30 minutes more in the evening. There are countries that have even longer lunch breaks, like France, for example, with a 2-hour lunch break. In the Netherlands, it's only 30 minutes. People eat a sandwich quick because they need to get back to work and be efficient. In America, it's the same story.